You're listening to Project Management Paradise, the ultimate project management podcast.
Hello again and welcome to Project Management Paradise. Johnny Byrne here, and this podcast delivers real project management insights from experts around the world. Our proud sponsor today is Cora Systems. Cora Systems is a leading enterprise portfolio, program and project management solution provider. If you want to find out more about Cora solutions, which are live in 42 countries around the world, visit corasystems.com, where you can request a free demo and discover firsthand how Cora helps its clients gain control, governance and insight into their project portfolios. In this week's interview, we have a very special guest, the founder and CEO of Cora Systems, Philip Martin. As you will know from the intro, Cora sponsored this podcast, so it's only fair that we have them on the show. Philip founded Cora in 1999 and has since grown it to a 50-person company with an impressive portfolio of international clients. In this interview, we get some real gems from Philip's 17 years of project management experience. Philip also shares with us how one client has 6,000 of its global workforce using Cora software to effectively and efficiently manage projects across 42 countries. Hello, Philip. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Johnny. It's good to be here.
Good to have you on board as CEO of Cora Systems, our core sponsor of the podcast. Can you tell our listeners, Philip, how you got started in the whole area of project management and a little bit about Cora?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm always conscious about talking about ourselves because it's not really about us, but just to give you a very brief overview. Cora are a software company. Our headquarters are in Carrick-on-Shannon in Ireland. We have offices in the UK, in the US, and we're, I suppose, a growing dynamic company. How did it all start out? I suppose in a previous job, I would have managed a very small team, and when I went in there the very first morning, and that small team generated a set of reports to me, which was each about 2 or 3 pages long. And I looked at this and thought, where did this come from? We were short of resources, so a team of 4 or 5 people spending 2 hours every Monday morning doing a report effectively was 1 day's of work. So the audit trail effectively of ProjectVision as we know it today was born version 1 anyway. And what it did basically was, as soon as somebody did something of significance, there was a one-liner typed in against a project, and at the end of the week a button was pressed, a Word document was created from everybody and in my group, and that basically was the reporting for the week. That feature effectively was the beginning of the audit trail with feature within ProjectVision. And within, I think, 3 weeks, everybody in the organization was actually using the same software. So very quickly realized a huge amount of efficiencies around the way in which projects are reported on. That got us into, okay, well, how do projects actually get managed? And at that stage, we went off. We had set up Cora, or I had set up Cora at that stage back in 99. We went off. We spoke to a lot of project management experts right across the board. So project managers, project management trainers, and lots of other different stakeholders, people that would be involved in projects. Out of that, I suppose ProjectVision version 1 was born. Well, you might cringe to look at it now. Back then, it was a fantastic little product, and one which we've developed and grown all the 16, 17 years since then. I suppose back then, it was just myself in 1999, and we're over 50 people today and growing, and we expect to double numbers over the next year.
50 people, wow, that's significant growth. And in terms of project management then, you're pretty close to it, even as CEO of the company. I know you're hands-on from talking from different people about the product. So how, in your opinion, do you think project management has changed over the last 15 years?
I think there's a lot more people using the term. Project management was a black art back in 1999 when we started out, and there was very few project managers, and sometimes it was seen as an excess to any other company spend that was in there. And if there was tough times, the project management spend was the first one to go. I think now people realize actually you need project managers to make sure projects run efficiently, on time, within budget, and you run a project without a project manager at your risk. And in fact, I don't know any of the organizations we deal with right now that actually ever do that. How does it change in terms of methodologies? Probably very little. I think people realize now it's more common sense than any detailed methodology. Back in 99, this was the 2 key methodologies we had was PMBOK, which is Project Management Body of Knowledge, and Prince. I think it was just Prince then. It wasn't even Prince 2 then. And most people that told you they managed using Prince were probably telling you a little white lie. They might have used maybe 5-10% of it, but it was very little part of it. Nowadays, you probably can add Agile to that list. But even back then, like, there was 253 different methodologies. I remember the number because we went off and we did a considerable bit of research on this and thought, do we have to manage 253 different methodologies? But very quickly we discovered they're all different flavors of each other. I suppose that was basically the start of the configuration capability in our products, which basically allow people to adapt ProjectVision to their methodology rather than having them changing to ProjectVision's methodology. The other big change I think we noticed is the whole centralized resource management. So back then it was kind of based very much on the knowledge of a project manager. If they knew somebody was available for the next month or how many people were available next month, could we run the project? And it was kind of done a bit of on a wing and a prayer. Now centralized resource management is more widely used, I suppose, really, and just getting that single picture view of who's doing what and without having to make loads of phone calls and write loads of emails to find that out. That's the real big change, I say. But bottom line is this whole project management thing, people now realize it's common sense and it's no major scientific expertise required. It's just very simple common sense.
There are people who say that the challenge with common sense is that it's not that common, but there you go. The product itself then, it's not developed, or the development isn't led by methodology. It's developed based on experience, client requirements, or a little bit of methodology, or all of the above?
Probably a bit of all of the above. You're right though. One of the things that I absolutely hate is when you go to put in a system, people think there's a massive change management required. And yeah, sure, there's always a little bit of change, but it's the onus is on us as software providers to minimize that change. If we go into an organization where they've already got a project management methodology in place, if you're asking that organization to change the whole of their methodology and change the way they work, then it's just a basic traumatic event from that organization's perspective, and also makes the project much more likely to fail. I can't remember the exact figure, but there's a very high failure rate to setting up new PMOs. And one of the reasons is because people try to change everything around the way in which an organization works. And that can be very difficult to do. I suppose if you were to equate it in footballing terms, the day before you put a team out to play a big match, would you change your whole set of tactics and expect everybody to be able to win the game and play well? No, you wouldn't. Tactics like that is something you practice in training grounds and that you are very, very familiar with over and over again. And it's the same with project management implementation or system implementation. You minimize the amount of change required by the organization, and that way your chances of success are much, much higher.
And are you tempted to suggest changes to the way an organization works and the procedures and their processes, or is it a case of, here's the software and, it will definitely increase efficiency and improve reporting, etc., but it's pretty much as you were with the software on top? Or would you be tempted to kind of go, guys, you really need to change a couple of operational procedures here as well?
It's a good question, right? Because quite often when you go into an organization, you can see glaringly obvious areas where they could improve in terms of process. And it might be that way because they're mad busy. They've just got very little time to actually follow through on their process and establish that. The fact that we're probably in the door means that they recognize it's an issue. It's how you get those guys to make those small changes. But quite often we go into an organization where they've got really good processes that just maybe need to be tweaked slightly. With 17 years of experience going into this kind of environment, it's very easy to compare notes across different clients that we would have had to say, okay, well, we know this works really well with another client. And actually quite often what we'll do is we'll organize visits from one client to another to actually talk about these kind of things. And that's what our user group is very much about as well, is getting our clients to talk to each other to see how they use ProjectVision better. Peer-to-peer
influence.
Absolutely.
In terms of the product then, have you seen requirements that clients have that you may not have foreseen? Have they come up with almost ideas for the product?
Absolutely. That's the main source of ideas for our product roadmap, and talking to our clients, understanding what they're doing. One of the things we discovered is that typically we operate in 4 or 5 sectors or 5 or 6 sectors now at this stage, and about 50% of the requirements are common across all sectors. About 25% of requirements are specific to people or process type stuff, and the remaining 25% is very specific to that vertical or that sector. And what we've done is we've developed very niche solutions, if you like, for each of those sectors that make us a little bit more powerful, I suppose, in that area. Going back to a very basic level in terms of requirements, I don't think in 99 we would have ever realized how much a client depends on MS Excel or Word or PowerPoint to manage their information. I suppose people are just wedded to that. It's simple, it's easy to use, and it's what they're used to, and it's what they start off with on a computer. And getting them to move away from something like that is kind of difficult. I know one of the features that we developed, this would fall into the 50% category, was a smart forms capability. And what that did was, it was basically where you had people storing Excel sheets on network drives and their laptops. We now take those into smart forms with the project plan right beside it online, where everybody and the project team can see it if they're given access to it, obviously. What that means is no longer is project information being lost if somebody leaves, or if their laptop goes down, or if the network goes down for a while. It's with the project plan, it's online, it's right beside it, and the whole project team, the knowledge stays with the project team, not with the project manager. And that can be really, really important. That whole smart forms capabilities, it gives a huge amount of extra capability to the client. They don't need us to change it. They can do it themselves. They can make new dashboards. They can create new cool infographics for themselves with their own images. And I suppose it's all basically out of the box. So they don't need us to actually do anything with it. We can help them with it, but they can basically do it all themselves out of the box.
Excellent. And in order of importance then, in terms of PPM, people, process or technology, in what ranking order of importance would you place those?
I would rate that probably as a kind of a trick question, really, but I'd probably go with the order issue in which you called it out there, people, process and technology. Bottom line, nothing happens without people. And having the right people with the right understanding for your business and the right feel for your business, it's the most important piece above any technology and above any I suppose process. You've got to have the right people in the organization that want to be there, that want to see things succeed. I suppose as a business owner, I see a big difference between somebody who owns a business and somebody who is not really that interested in working in a business versus somebody who is really interested in seeing that succeed. And you can see that in the way they work, in the way they operate. You also need process. Process and systems really probably go hand in hand. Process first. You got to get the process in place to make sure that and make sure they work. Basically, it's kind of walk before you can run. Once the processes are in place, the technology glues all that together. We would be very upfront in saying that to any client, that if they don't have a process, then we will help them either put that process in place or maybe tweak the ones they have before we actually install the technology. And we do quite a bit of work around understanding the client's business and understanding how they work and what they want to achieve. So what's their strategies as well, because that can play a huge part in where you want to go with a piece of technology. And then we implement accordingly after that.
And a huge reliance, of course, on people inputting data on a consistent and accurate basis too, because otherwise the whole house of cards in terms of reporting, resource management, etc., falls down. I won't use the term, but X in gives you X out.
Absolutely. X in, X out. Yes. What do you mean by X out? Yeah. That's one of the main reasons that an organization will put in a system like ours is because of that reporting that you mentioned. And senior management team, they're paid in an organization to make decisions. They have got to make decisions. And if they have information in front of them that's really good, they'll make better decisions. If they have no information or poor quality information in front of them, they're going to make bad decisions. So the whole idea, one of the main reasons behind the reporting suite and ProjectVision is to ensure that the SMT makes really good decisions and drives their own business forward.
And crucially, evidence-based and audit trail.
Absolutely, yeah.
Capability for those decisions. In terms of the PPM space, then there's lots of methodologies, there's lots of development in software tools such as your own. What's the most exciting thing or most important thing that's happening in PPM at the moment?
There's some interesting trends, all right. There's a lot more emphasis being placed on portfolio planning now than there ever was before, and that probably is one of the reasons why we're developing products in new areas. The idea of taking on a project and working with that project and discovering that it's absorbing more resources and absorbing more money, more time, and basically it wasn't what you planned it to be at the very beginning, and effectively is known as a dog. Taking on less of those at the beginning rather than actually finding out their dogs a year later after you spent a couple of million quid on it, that's really key. The flip side of that is some really good projects that you assess and you don't take on, but you assess it incorrectly and you should have taken it on, and that would have made you a couple of million quid. So they're stars. So basically taking on more stars and less dogs becoming really, really important. And that's the whole concept around portfolio planning. Another area that is starting to become topical, still not mainstream, I think, but it's still becoming very, very topical in certain areas of our client base, is the whole concept of benefits realization. Essentially what benefits realization does is make sure you deliver on the business plan that you set out. So quite a few people create a business plan saying, oh, we're going to save the company 10 million by 3 years, in 3 years' time, if we run this project that's going to cost 500,000 right now. And you say, oh, this is fantastic, let's do it. You sign off the business case. The project runs for 6 months. It finishes at the end of 6 months. And very rarely does an organization actually go back in a year or 3 years' time and see, was the original 10 million savings achieved? That's what benefits realization does. It forces you, first of all, to think through how those benefits are going to be realized and how much and when. And then it actually tracks that right through to the end. So a lot of people treat benefits realization separately to the whole program portfolio project management. We don't believe that is the case. We think it should be dealt with together. And quite often, there's something called a benefits realization map. It can be a very difficult piece of work to draw. A lot of people use Microsoft Visio to do it, but it takes a long time to draw that. We've now automated that capability within our own product, where it saves a huge amount of time and means that the whole benefits realization piece is really easy to do. But the whole portfolio planning versus portfolio management and benefits realization will be the two areas that I see big changes in.
Great. And is mobile making a big impact yet, or?
I'd like to say yes, it was, because I'm a bit of a technophobe myself, but I don't think it's having a dramatic impact that I thought it would have. Yeah, sure, it's fantastic to get simple updates and get alerts while you're on site or while you're out of the office, and just being able to update and say, yeah, I've done that job or whatever. And that capability is there, but you're not really going to get into a mainstream Gantt chart or a work breakdown structure or a detailed risk analysis while you're out of the office or while you're away from say, a laptop screen or a large screen, because that's something you just need a real estate screen to look at. So there are certain things that mobile can do, but there are also things that it can't. Typically, one of the things we would do is we would integrate ProjectVision to your finance system to give you real-time financial costs. That's something you will lose on a mobile. You just are not able to integrate directly and get real-time financial costs. That's purely a security thing from your own financial part of your organization. They won't allow that. But then you have things like viewing your projects on a map. That's still there. That capability is still there. So yeah, I'd like to say mobile is really changing it. I think it's having an impact, but it's not as big as I thought it would be.
Sure, and I suppose it's a display issue too, but I guess it may have an impact on how things are displayed. Maybe the traditional Gantt chart might look different in 3 to 5 years' time purely because of mobile.
Yeah, it'll become more like a task list or a to-do list rather than actually a Gantt chart. It's just a basic issue of real estate.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Just in terms of the huge amount of experience you have, what's a big lesson you've learned in PPM in the last 15 years?
For me, the biggest one, and I keep repeating it here internally here within Cora as well, would be to keep it simple. If it's simple to write, then it's simple to read. And if it's simple to read, it's by extension simple to understand. If you write 20 sentences where one will do, then all you're doing is wasting somebody's time, a few people's time actually, yours and whoever's going to read what you wrote, and it's not necessarily more clear. I would keep that one as my key lesson. I know there's probably lots more out there, but that's the one. Keep it simple. And I know you've heard that one several times with several different sectors and several different fields, but it really applies to BPM.
And just briefly then, what's the most interesting customer project you've worked on with Cora?
We've had a good few. We operate across a number of different sectors, very, very interesting ways in which people are working and what they do. I suppose the most interesting one recently has got to be Honeywell. It's really got to be really interesting challenge. There was a huge overspend problem there growing, and at the same time they had a requirement to manage resourcing, to manage control and visibility over other projects, and even to govern those projects, to have good governance over them and how they're actually they're run. And at the same time they wanted to integrate their cost price quote system, which is basically Salesforce based, and the output then they're kind of what you referred to earlier on, the mobile part of out in the field, and here's your jobs and what you got to do, and that feeds from the project plan. So we were the central part of all of that, and I suppose what was really interesting is we took in ProjectVision is now rolled out to 42 different countries within Honeywell, so it's a huge global implementation. It's probably one of our biggest ones, and to do that we had to take in a lot of those global stakeholders into a room here in Carrick-on-Shannon for about 2 weeks. And we very quickly discovered that these guys themselves hadn't even met each other, even though they work with each other daily. Physically, they had not met each other, and that was very interesting. And just the way they worked, I think, changed a little bit because of the fact that they now knew people that met them face to face. We established the requirements here over those 2 weeks. We wrote them up. We basically figured out the rollout teams, how training was going to be done with these guys. We adapted the whole thing to the Honeywell process. So again, the whole change management within Honeywell itself was very, very focused and very, very clearly managed. That fact that we minimized that change management, I believe, in a huge global implementation like Honeywell was one of the major success factors on that project.
How many users have they?
They have over 6,000 users and growing. That basically was a huge emphasis put on training as well. Their training expert from Belgium came in to Carrick, worked with our training people, and they adapted the train the trainer approach on that project. And they have now the capability of training in-house themselves. From our point of view, we host it for them. We still manage it, and we're still working with them. And then we're going on to phase 2 and phase 3 of the project, amalgamating with other systems. Salesforce's implementation is there already. We can see exactly what's coming down the line from them in terms of a sale that comes over the wire into ProjectVision to be managed as a project within ProjectVision, and then the work coming from that then goes out into their third partner who manages basically all the mobile working piece.
Have you looked at e-learning with such a big rollout?
We did, yeah. We used a local provider here that did a lot of fantastic videos around the product, but it wasn't just around our product, it was also around the Honeywell process as well. So what that meant for, say, somebody in Dubai who was suddenly seeing ProjectVision for the first time within Honeywell is they could click on a video and see, okay, here's my process and here's how I manage that process on this product called ProjectVision. And that worked really well. And we can see the usage around the videos, that people love them. Generally, they'd have to be kept within 1-2 minute videos. And again, probably an area outside my own expertise, but what it does is basically you're keeping the human mind and concentration within that 2 minutes. They're learning very quickly what it is they have to do, doing it in 2 minutes, and they're comfortable with that approach for training and using the product as well.
Excellent. It sounds like a massive project and a great client for yourselves. I know you're rushing off, Philip. Just very quickly, you have 2 events coming up?
Yeah, we have. We have the Cora Client Conference coming up pretty shortly in Carton House. Carton House, as most people know, it's where the Irish Open was hosted there. I can't remember what year, but from playing a little bit of golf, I play it myself. It's a beautiful place to be and walk around and maybe get away from the whole lot as well. You're right beside Dublin City, but you're basically out in the country in nice quiet space to think and understand what's going on in the project management arena. It'd be a great chance for our clients to meet each other, see how they're getting on, compare notes. But also we bring, every year we bring about 4 or 5 potential clients to that. They get to see what our existing clients are doing the tool and how ProjectVision has made a huge difference to the way they work. The second event is the PM Summit. And the PM Summit is done with a great partner of ours called PMIS, a guy called Raymond Poole and Dan Wicklow. What those guys do is they're very much an Oracle P6 house, which you might think was a competitor of ours. As is one of the fantastic things we've observed is that we're not really competitors to P6. We both operate in different spaces. So P6 is typically for a large 2,000 to 5,000 line construction project. And in my view, it requires very specialized people to run it within those organizations. And those people are few and far between within any organization. What we've done is we've built an integrator, a P6 integrator, which pulls basically the summary details from those large 4,000 or 5,000 line plans up to a higher level. And it allows ProjectVision to manage the other 250 projects going on in the organization that are not suited to P6 and pull up summary details from those construction projects into one common view of the whole organization. And we're going to be launching that at the PM Summit this time around. We're pretty excited about that piece. And we think the user group that are there at the PM conference will be a broad range of users, from people that look at those PMBOK, Prince2, agile methodologies, right through to people in construction, right, people in life sciences. And there's a huge amount to learn in there. There's really fantastic entrance speakers at both events that are going to basically speak about their experiences around managing projects, around maybe adapting in an organization, around change management, around a lot of things that we've spoken about today. We've got a really interesting lineup there. I'm really looking forward to going very shortly, next few weeks.
Good. Well, look, we'll include details in the show notes of both the events, the dates, the locations, etc.
It'll be fantastic. Yeah.
It's been a pleasure talking to you, Philip. It just sounds like a really exciting time for Cora and your products and the clients that are using it. So thanks very much from everybody at the Project Management Paradise podcast.
Thank you, Johnny.
And that was our recent interview with Philip Martin, founder and CEO of Cora Systems, who also sponsored this podcast. Just hearing about that one client that have over 6,000 users in 42 countries. The sheer scale of that in project management terms is just mind-blowing. For more information about Cora, their upcoming events and how you can request a demo, check out the show notes at projectmanagementparadise.com/10. Our proud sponsor today is Cora Systems. Cora Systems is a leading enterprise portfolio, program and project management solution provider. If you want to find out more about Cora Solutions, which are live in 42 countries around the world, visit corasystems.com, where you can request a free demo and discover firsthand how Cora helps its clients gain control, governance and insight into their project portfolios. Thanks again for listening, and be sure to tune in again next week for another great guest.
Thanks for listening to the Project Management Paradise podcast at projectmanagementparadise.com.